I just started the recording. So hello to everybody who's watching the recording. We're glad to have you here with us in this way, watching. And so let's just start with prayer. Heavenly Father, I thank you and I praise you for this day, for these students, for this time to learn and learn and learn about your world and the way it's structured. And we just praise you. And I know each of these students has something that's on their hearts, God. So we just lift those things up to you. And I just pray, God, that you will draw them to you and help them to feel your presence in their lives. Please be with this class time today. May it be honoring to you. In Jesus' name, amen. All right. So what's one thing that you do to help the environment? What's one thing that you do to help the environment? Good. Not littering. That's a great one, Carrie. Recycle. Absolutely. What kind of recycling system do you have at your house? Does the town come and pick it up? Can you recycle everything? Do you have to take it somewhere to recycle? Glad you're here, Zachary. They come and pick it up. Today was recycling day at our house. They come and pick it up when they pick up our trash, but they only do it every other week. And they have smaller bins at our house. I mean, they're bigger than that. But at our old house where we used to live, we used to have giant trash size things for recycling. That was really great because then we really recycled a lot of things because we didn't have to worry about space at all. You help the environment by not littering, by recycling, by planting. Do you guys have a garden, Molly? Okay, Elijah, you need to try a little harder, please. Let's be sure that your comments are relevant so that people can read them. You have a big garden, Corbin? That really does help the environment. That's so cool. Anything else in particular that you guys do? Maybe some of you use cloth grocery bags instead of plastic ones from the store. You have a pretty big garden, Zachary. Good. Your mom always brings in her own bags instead of plastic ones. Good for her. Sometimes I'm good about that and sometimes I'm not. Good for her for being so good to the environment. You know, I thought you were supposed to be Andrew. I was like, I don't think this is right. So I'm glad that you're not Zachary and that you're Andrew. You threw me for a moment. Usually you come in as Nicholas and then I know. And then when you came in as a Zachary, I thought I have a Zachary in one of my classes, but not this one. Good. Thanks for fixing that. When you get plastic bags, you keep them so you can use them again for something else. Good. We use that too. We do that too. And then sometimes when we get just too many, then we recycle them. So that's something that you can do to help the environment is to reuse those plastic bags. Or paper bags are good for the environment over plastic bags. Good, you guys. So there are lots of different ways that you can help the environment for sure. All right. Oh, keeps there from being too many deer. Oh, your mom wants to only buy bulk so that there's less packaging and waste, right? Very good. All right. Well, let's pop out our maps, charts, and graphs book. How did it go this week? How was your homework this week? Did it go okay? Good. So we have lots of different things. It was long. Be sure you have your books with you now so that you can take good notes so that you don't have quite as much of it to do for homework. How did these contour maps go? Did that go okay? Good. That's fun. It makes you really think, right? And then the elevation maps of Africa. So you really had to look at Africa and figure out where the lowlands were and where the mountains are. Oh, good, Jacob. I'm really glad to hear that. Well, you have one book that I sent to you, right? So I sent you the Children Just Like Me book. So that should have arrived or should be arriving. Good. Did that get there already, Jacob? Good, good, good. We are comparing map projections this week. You're missing some of the other ones? Okay. I'm glad to know that, Jacob, and I'm glad that they're coming. Let me know if there's anything that I can do to help you. And you can catch up. Let me know when you have them and I can let you know how you can catch up. Do you have this book yet, Jacob? Good. Okay. So you want to be sure that you're doing the homework from that each week. Okay. So comparing map projections. So we're going to talk about map projections. So basically, here's what's kind of tricky about maps. Yeah, it's hard when you save it all till the end, Andrew, I know. Here's what's tricky about maps. What we do when we look at a map is we are looking at a portion of something that is round, right? So when you take something round and you try to represent it on something flat, then that's very difficult, isn't it? And there's not really a good way to make that happen. I want you to imagine an orange. In fact, yeah, go ahead and imagine an orange. Yep, you have a globe right next to you. That's excellent. So I have a little cutie right here. Okay, so here's a little orange. It's round, kind of, mostly, right? It's roundish. So imagine then, if I peel this cutie, which I'm going to try to do, and I have this skin, is there any way for me to make it be one big flat rectangle? Okay, Elijah, no more speaking alien, please. I can cut it, but even if I cut it, can I make it a flat rectangle? So even if I cut it, right, like you can see that these parts go together, but there's nothing that I can do to make that be flat. So imagine now, if this is a globe and it has the countries all over it, if I try to make it flat, what's going to happen? You're right. I could, yeah, it's going to be kind of confusing and sort of messy. And I just dropped the orange on my computer. So here I have one big piece. And if this had the map drawn, the countries drawn on it, It's not going to look like the maps that you usually see, is it? Right here, it's kind of a plus sign. So that's the catch. That's the problem that we have when we have a map of the world, is this circle, a circle, or a globe, a round sphere, is the actual shape of our Earth. But when we're trying to represent it on something flat, is there any way to do that absolutely with absolute accuracy so that it's exactly right? There really isn't, because you're trying to take something round and convert it into something flat. And because there's no, then you wouldn't see the other side. So like this, I have the entire peel right here, which is great. But then when we make it flat, it's going to be all kind of cattywampus. Okay, don't get too far ahead of us, Molly. So, right, so it's going to be a problem to try and get it so that it can be flat and easily read. So in order to then give a flat map of the world, there is going to be some kind of distortion. Something about it is going to be not quite right as we work hard to try and represent something round on something flat. And so when we do that, when we create maps that represent something round on something flat, because there are different ways to do that, we call them projections. And each projection has something that's really good about it and something that's not quite good about it. Molly was just talking about goods interrupted projection. And you can see that on page 24. Do I have a... Here's goods interrupted projection. And this is sort of like the orange peel, right? Where it really does show the shapes in a less distorted way. But what's the problem with that projection if you're trying to use it actually to measure things or figure things out? What's the problem with this particular projection? Okay, bonkers, right? Andrew says it's bonkers. What do you mean by that? It's bonkers. Why is this not a particularly usable one? Okay, it looks crazy and unnatural because it's split into sections, right? And to have it split into sections, right, you can't see all of the ocean all together in one place. It makes it look like to get from one place to another, you'd have to take a big leap across space. So when you look at this, your continents are the proper shape and then they're proper size, but it would be very hard, you know how we talked about our not our index, not our legend, not our key. What's the mappy word that I'm looking for, you guys? That tells how, yep, that's the mappy word, Claire, thank you. So we talk about a map scale. How would you do a scale on this map? It would be very hard to even have a scale. If the scale was accurate for this area right here, it would still be hard to figure out the distance from the United States to Europe because you have this big break in the middle. So goods interrupted projection is great for being able to tell what continents are larger than another or exactly what shape they are, but it's not very practical, right? So then let's look at some of the other options that we have. The first one that we talk about is actually the Mercator projection. So the Mercator projection is flat, and this is one of the oldest and more popular projections. It has true shapes of the land areas, but the sizes are distorted. Looking at this picture right here, what continent do you know for sure is distorted? It's not the right size. Good, Andrew, that's right. Antarctica is very distorted. It looks a lot, what? In what way is it distorted? Right, it looks a lot bigger than it is in real life. The good news about that is that if Antarctica is the continent that's distorted, in the grand scheme of life, how much do we need to have an accurately sized Antarctica? Maybe not so much, right? Do we really need an accurately sized Antarctica? If we were going to choose of all the continents, which continent would be best to have distortion in? Antarctica would be our choice because we really need it to be more accurate in these countries where a lot of people live or where we do a lot of trade or we do a lot of travel. It's important to have these continents be the right size and shape. So the sizes of the land near the equator are most accurate. And then as we go toward the poles, it becomes less accurate. So the Mercator projection also look at how straight our lines of latitude and longitude are. They're kind of straight, and even this one is used for sailing. It's very helpful for sailors because it helps them get accurately from one place to the other, unless they're going to Antarctica, which most sailors in the old days, they were just thankful to be able to get safely from Europe to the Americas. Okay, so let's look at our next one. And there's a blow up of the Mercator. Here is the mole-wide projection. This is called an equal area projection. What that means is the land areas are shown in accurate size and scale. Do you see how big Greenland is? Or perhaps I should say how small Greenland is? That's much different than here where Greenland looks like it's big. So one of the benefits of the mole-wide projection is that the land areas are shown in accurate size and scale, but the land shapes are a little bit distorted, especially when you get toward the edges of the map. So that's one of the downsides of the mole-wide projection. Again, trying to take something round and represent it on something flat. Here's a blow up of that mole-wide projection. So you can see, and they tried to make it so that on the edges you would have less land. If they split it up someplace like this, then you would have something that was very distorted. So now, let's see, we looked at goods interrupted projection, right? And we talked about how one of the difficulties with this projection is what? All right, be more specific than it's bad and the shape. Tell me a little bit more about that. It's distorted not in that the land sizes and shapes are distorted, but good, it makes it hard to use a scale because it actually has great big gaps. It's split into sections, and that makes it hard to use. But much more accurate. Again, you can look at Greenland and see the relative size of Greenland in comparison to North America. Also Antarctica. It's hard to get a grasp on what the shape of Antarctica is because it's split into sections. But you know that this relative size itself is accurate. This is a polar projection. What does that mean, a polar projection? Right, from the top, from the pole. So this allows you to see the Earth as if you were looking down at the North Pole or looking up from the South Pole. But what's one of the drawbacks of it? Right, you can't see, not only can you, exactly, Andrew, you can only see one side, right? Can you see all of South America? No, because you can only see down to the equator. Also, the size is distorted as it gets toward the edges, so it is also not quite accurate. The shapes are distorted around the edges and more accurate up here, but you can see how that doesn't work particularly well. So different projections are useful for different functions. We talked about that. It only shows half of the Earth. So let's look then at our questions in lesson 12. I want you to turn to page 25. That is exactly right, Molly. There is no perfect projection because the Earth is an orange. And we're trying to look at it on a piece of paper. Okay, so page 25, we're going to look at, well, let's look at number 1. It says, which of these maps would have the least distortion when drawn by map makers? Is it the map of North America, the map of the United States, the map of the state of Illinois, or the map of the world? Which of those maps would have the least distortion by map makers? So Carrie guesses North America. There is even a better answer than North America. What do you think the better answer is? Illinois. That's right. Illinois is the right answer. Why is Illinois the best choice? Good, Carrie. That's right. It's smaller. So think about our orange. We have our options are North America, which is going to be pretty big, or the United States, which is a little smaller than North America, or the map of the state of Illinois, which is pretty small. So if you're thinking about this in terms of our orange peel or our orange skin, the thing that's the smallest is going to be most accurately represented when we take the peel off and try and represent it in a flat way. Does that make sense? Good. So the answer is C for number 1. We are on page 25. Be sure that you log in with your proper name, please. Okay, so let's look at number 2. South America is about 9 times larger than Greenland. On which projection do Greenland and South America look about the same size? On which one do Greenland and South America look about the same size? So we're on number 2 right now. Which one do South America and Greenland look about the same size? Well, and their options are the mall-wide, the Mercator, Goods, or the Polar. And Madison says Mercator. So here we have Greenland and South America. Do you see how they look about the same size? Yep, so the Mercator projection is the right answer for number 2. Yeah, that one's a little bit tricky to find, Andrew, because instead of being blue and green like the other ones, it's white. But that's a really important map. Okay, I'll leave it right there for the next one. Lands far from the equator look larger on the Mercator projection. Which one of these continents would be enlarged the most on a Mercator map? So remember, you're going to look at the options that they give you, not just at the map. So on the Mercator projection, which one of these continents would be enlarged the most on a Mercator map? And so we're looking at the lands that are far from the equator. And Antarctica would be the right answer, Molly, except that it's not one of your choices. A, North America, is the correct answer. Because if you're comparing North America, South America, remember here's the equator. So North America, South America, Africa, and Australia, the one that is furthest from the equator is going to be North America. So we're just looking at the choice that's furthest from the equator of the choices that they give us. Number 4 is an easy one. In what way is so the answer for number 3 was A, North America. You're getting them right, Madison, good. Number 4, in what way is the polar projection different from the other 3 projections? This one's easy. So number 4, in what way is the polar projection different from the others? Good. Several of you said D, which is it only shows half of the world, right? So do you see that, Corbin? If you look at the polar projection, it's not that it only shows one ocean, or that it only shows Africa and Asia, or that it only shows Antarctica, because it doesn't show Antarctica at all. But it only shows half of the world, and there isn't any other projection that only shows half of the world. So that was number 4. It only shows half of the world. So number 5, which 2 projections allow you to compare the true sizes of continents in both the northern and southern hemispheres? So we talked about which projections showed the true sizes of continents. Do you remember that? Do you remember which one? Good. The goods showed the true sizes, and then there's one other that showed true sizes. Goods is one of them. And the mole wide is the other. Yes, exactly. The mole wide is the other one. So number 4 was, what do you think it was, Andrew? Okay, there you go, Claire. And then for number 5, it's goods interrupted and the mole wide. Now, which continent's shape is impossible to see completely on any of the maps? Which continent's shape is impossible to see completely on any of the maps? Carrie gave a good answer. Do you agree with that? Okay, I'm going to let you go back and listen to the recording, Andrew. Which continent's shape is impossible to see completely on any of the maps? We have 3 votes for Antarctica. Would you agree that Antarctica is impossible to see completely on any of the maps? That would be correct. So for number 6, it's Antarctica. Now, number 6 was Antarctica. Look at number 7. On which type of map, what projection could best show that continent? So this one makes you think a little bit. Which one could best show that continent? Probably not Mercator because it's giant. Oh, sorry, we're on B. I apologize. This is 6B. And Andrew is exactly right. The polar one, if instead of the way we're looking at it right here on the slide, instead of looking at it from the top, if we looked at it from the bottom, that would give us the best accurate representation of Antarctica. Do you see that? If we're looking at it from the bottom, then we would best be able to see the proper representative shape of Antarctica. Now we'll move to number 7. So you saw that 6B was polar. Number 7, which ocean appears at the center of most of these projections? Which ocean appears at the center of most of these projections? So here we have the Arctic. So most of these projections, it said. How about here at the center of this one, we have the Atlantic Ocean. Here in this one, we have the Atlantic Ocean. Claire checked them all. This one in the middle, we have the Atlantic Ocean. So that seems like a pretty reasonable answer, right? Now think about this. We're representing something round with something flat, and we've put the Atlantic Ocean in the middle. But what if we wanted to show trade connections between the United States and Asia? Then which ocean would we want to put in the middle? Well, right now we know that the Atlantic is in the middle of most of them. But if we wanted to show trade connections between North America or United States and Asia, there you go, Molly. This wouldn't be a great way to show those connections because we have a big old break between United States and Asia. This wouldn't be great because we have a big old break between United States and Asia. So the best thing to do would be to rework the map so that what is in the middle? Right, the Pacific Ocean. You would want the Pacific Ocean to be at the center so you could see a clear path between United States and Asia. Here we have a clear path from United States to Europe, but if we flipped it around and showed the other side and put the Pacific in the middle, then we would see a straight shot between the United States and Asia. Does that make sense? So for 7B, it's the Pacific. I'm going to let you guys take a 4-minute break to get up and get your wiggles out. I'm going to see you at 11:41, and then we'll talk about highway maps. So 11:41, you guys, be sure to come back. Yep, only 4. Go eat that orange, Claire. Hey guys, I'm glad you're back. So we're going to flip to the next lesson, and we're going to talk about using highway maps. And what's kind of fun and interesting about this is that it used to be, instead of GPS, we all used highway maps in order to get around. So it's something that you would certainly be accustomed to at this point in your lives, except now we use them in a very different way because we use GPS, and it's almost like we have somebody else interpreting our maps for us. So here, this highway map that we have coming up is actually a highway map of, yep, we use cameras. This is a highway map of central Argentina. And you can see that there's a legend that tells us what's what, right? So down at that map key, we see three different things. We see a national capital, we see major roads, and then we see other roads. What's kind of a difference between major roads and other roads? Let's not use cameras right now. Okay, red and black, right. And if you're driving on them, what it would be some of the differences if you're driving on major roads versus other roads or smaller roads? What are some of the differences? Good, there are more cars on major roads and fewer cars on other roads. Good, Molly. Major roads tend to be smoother. They're better cared for because countries or states know that there's more traffic on them, and so that they need to take better care of them. Good. Often you can drive faster on major roads than you can on smaller roads. So when we look at this, let's look at number one. Which is the nation's capital? Concordia, Cordoba, Buenos Aires, or La Plata? Which is the nation's capital? Do you see it there with a star? Good, Buenos Aires. So that one wasn't too hard. Number one is C. Number one is C. So now we're going to skip, you guys, to number three. Now we are on number three, and I want to know which city is linked to Buenos Aires by a major road. So you have to look at your choices. You can't just look at all the cities that are linked by major roads, but you have to look at your choices. Is it Olivaria? I'm going to go ahead and let you circle these options. Or put a dot. Just a small dot. No big dots, no big giant ovals. I want a little dot. One on Olivaria. Good, somebody found Olivaria. Then I need, good, there are a couple people who found Olivaria. Then I need another dot on Bolivar. You find another dot for Bolivar. No, no big circles, thank you very much, or we don't get to do this. Okay, small dot, please. So we have Olivaria, Bolivar. How about Santa Fe? Can you find Santa Fe? Well, that's good because it must be covered online. There it is. All right. So Santa Fe, and then Chivilcoy. Where's Chivilcoy? Good. So of those options, which one just, all right, somebody's circling all kinds of other things, and that's wrong. And it makes me very sad because I've been very specific about what you should and shouldn't do. We can't find the right answer if you're circling the wrong cities. So of the choices given, which one can you reach by a major road? Good. Claire and Carrie said Santa Fe, right? So that's the only one that's joined by a black road, a major road. All right. Good. So we know then that for number 3, it's C. Which city in Argentina has the most major highways leading into it? So this one shouldn't be too hard. Number 4, which city in Argentina has the most major highways leading into it? Good. Carrie and Claire are the first ones to answer. Good. Molly? What else do y'all think? Everybody type in an answer. Good. You are correct. B, Buenos Aires is the city in Argentina that has the most major highways leading into it. So number 4 is B. We are now going to switch to the next page, page 27. Nope, we're going to skip number 5 and let people figure that out at home, Carrie. So let's look at the next page. I want you to look at the legend. What are some of the things that are marked on that legend? So look in your book. Good. So the capital, the nation's capital. What else? Good. Major roads, other roads, and then what's that other thing? Paths, right? That becomes very important to notice that there are major roads, there are other roads, and then there are paths. So take a look at number 10. What is the most direct route from Curepto to Constitucion? The most direct route from Curepto to Constitucion. Number 10. So I'm going to let you mark both those places for number 10. I want you to mark Curepto on the map and Constitucion on the map. Okay, so Curepto and Constitucion. Do you see them? I think somebody has marked the wrong one. So I'm going to clear this off. You have the right idea of where you're supposed to be looking. Okay, so we have Corrupto and Constitucion. What connects those two? Good, you guys are right. It's a path because that matches this down here, right, in your legend. Good, so that's a path. So the answer for number 10 is C. Now, where do you see the largest number of paths when you look at this part of Chile? Is it around Santiago? This is number 11, you guys. Is it around Santiago? Is it along the border with Argentina? Is it along the seacoast? Or around Concepcion? Where do you see the largest number of paths? So Claire votes for Santiago. Nicholas votes for along the border with Argentina. So if you look at paths, we've got a path here, but most of our paths, do you see, are along this border with Argentina. So the answer there for number 11 is B, along the border with Argentina. Yep, that's right. Now, how many major roads, this is number 12, how many major roads cross the border between Chile and Argentina? So what are we looking for? We see that there are a lot of paths, those right here. Yep, good, Carrie. We're looking for the black roads. How many black roads are there? How many black lines, solid black lines are there that cross from Chile into Argentina? Your choices are 18, 2, 5, and 24. Good, Corbin. It's a little bit tricky because there is one way up here. So you've got one way up here and another down here. So 2. The answer is B, 2. Now, this one I think is the trickiest one. So we're going to skip to number 14. Which phrase best describes the land along the border between Chile and Argentina? What best describes this land here? And the options that they've given you are low farmlands, rolling hills, river valley, or high mountains. What type of land do you think this is along here? Ah, several of you say mountains. Why would you say mountains? How do we know? It's such a great question. Those of you who said mountains, how did you know? Was it a guess? Good. So the ways of the path were was one way. Do you see right here these numbers? Do you know what that tells us? Right. That's elevation above sea level. Elevation above sea level. So when you look at that elevation, then you're like, oh, that's pretty high. It must be mountains. So you have high mountains right here on the border of Chile and Argentina. Yep, so number 14, the answer is D. You have high mountains here between Chile and Argentina. All right, Jake. Okay, then take a look at number 15. What is the most likely meaning now for that symbol? Do you see this one here that the path goes through? What do you think that symbol means? Does that mean a highway bridge, a mountain pass, a railroad tunnel, or a bus stop? Okay, remember, it doesn't just say a bridge, it says a highway bridge. So those are paths, right? So you're not going to have a highway there. So it can't be a highway bridge. Even though you want to say that it's a bridge, you can't say that it's a bridge because that whole choice is a highway bridge. So that's one of those things that I love about this book, about how you have to really read the answers, because you want to say it's a bridge, but then you see the highway part and you say, haha, a highway would be a main road, but these are paths. So B, a mountain pass, is going to be the best answer. Why would it not be a tunnel? I can totally see why you would want to say it's a tunnel. What makes it not a tunnel, do you think? Any good ideas for why that wouldn't be? Ah, nice, Nicholas. Good, Claire. Yep, it's a path. So it's not a highway. How many tunnels have you known that have been carved where there's a path? Usually you have a tunnel if you have maybe a railroad or if you have a highway, but you don't usually carve a tunnel if you have a path. And you are correct, it is definitely not a bus stop. You can cross that out. So 15 is B, a mountain pass. Let's look at lesson 14. So turn the page. And this is what we're looking at here. Hang on, before we move on. You've got Argentina and Chile, and you can see that there are mountains through here. There are mountains along between, but I want to give you a full overview of that continent. So now we're going to read a city map, and this is up in Canada. And this is pretty cool because Burnaby is right here in the midst of an island right here. So a map can help you find your way around a town or a city that's not familiar. And this shows the city of Vancouver, British Columbia in Canada. So imagine that you just flew into Vancouver and you are trying to figure out how to get around. So you're going to rent a car to travel around the city. You've been there, Madison? That's very cool. So the first thing I want you to look at is number 1. What body of water lies nearest to Vancouver International Airport? Do you see that airport? You guys circle that airport for me. Where is that airport? All right. Oh my goodness. I'm the saddest by whichever of you can't keep from scribbling. Good. So you found it. And then which body of water lies nearest to it? Good. Molly and Andrew, yep. And Carrie, yes. Madison, yes. B, the Strait of Georgia is nearest to it. So that's where you're landing, right, is that airport. So what if you're staying at a hotel near Central Park? In what direction would you go to reach your hotel from the airport? So can you find Central Park? Who wants to volunteer to mark Central Park for me? Okay, Jake is going to mark Central Park. I was thinking that I could do this differently, but I can't. Okay, nope. This is Central Park in Vancouver. Okay. So Jake is going to mark Central Park. Go ahead and mark that, Jake. Is that Central Park? I'm having trouble even reading. I want everybody now to mark Central Park. There you go. So here's Central Park over here. So what direction is that from the airport? Central Park. Thanks, you guys. Yep, I'm having trouble with that too. Your screen says insert a picture and make art. Don't insert a picture and make art. Good. It's east, right? So from the International Airport to Central Park is east. All right. So that's number 2 is C, east. Now, what if you're trying to go from the airport to your hotel? So remember, you're staying at a hotel near Central Park. What route would you take? So look in your books. You're going to have trouble seeing it on the screen, but look in your books. Okay, we're not going to insult, but I really would like you to please focus on the class. So what street are you going to take to get from the airport to your hotel? Is it Southeast Marine Drive, Kingsway, Southwest Marine Drive, or Highway 99? Andrew says Marine Drive. Do you all agree with that? Good. Okay, so Southeast Marine Drive, A is going to be that answer. If you drive your car from Eburn near the airport to Boundary Road by Central Park, oh, let's skip that one actually. I'm going to let you do that on your own. I want to skip to number 5. Which one of the following, number 5, you guys, which one of the following is a limited access highway? What does that mean? A limited access highway. Number 2 was C, that's correct. Okay, so what's a limited access highway? Good. Blue is the limited access highway. What does that mean? Claire says it means that it closes sometimes. There's actually another meaning for it. All right, please stop, or I'll have to take you out one by one. Okay, Molly says maybe some people can drive on it, but actually think about the highways near your house. Do you have highways with entrance ramps and exits? We're on number 5, right? So you have some with entrance ramps and exits. So you can't just turn on that highway from just any road, right? You have to specifically get on wherever there's an entrance ramp or an exit. That's a limited access. Your access is limited to just those particular entrance ramps. Even though other roads cross it, you can't get on at those other roads that cross it. Only at specific entrances and exits. So that is a limited access highway. And you see the limited access highway on this map? Is it Lougheed Highway, Barnett Highway, Kingsway, or Canadian Auto Route number 1? Ah, so that's a good point. Claire says, I can't find labels for it. So just like in our country, we have interstates that have a shield, right? Like when you look at them on a map, or even when you look at them on street signs, they have a blue shield with a little red squiggly thing at the top. And that's how you know it's an interstate or a limited access highway. Here, this has a Canadian leaf, and this is Canadian Route number 1. This is your label for it, is Canadian Route number 1. Yep, and on the key it says limited access highway. So you know that the blue one is the limited access highway, and it's Canadian Route number 1. Yeah, that was a little bit tricky, huh? That was number 5. So what's the answer? D, right? So number 5 is D because it's Canadian Auto Route number 1, and that's how they mark them rather than our blue and red shields for the interstate. I'm going to let you do, well, let's do this. Let's take a 5-minute break. I'm going to see you back at 12:10. 12:10, I will see you back. Get up and stretch. Okay, you guys. Okay, are you guys back? You were doing the questions, Claire? Good. Let's take a look at number 9. What would be the fastest route from Surrey to West Vancouver? So if you're in Surrey and you're going to West Vancouver, what do you think the fastest route would be? From Surrey to West Vancouver, what would be the fastest route, do you think? Would it be Highway 7A? Can you find Highway 7A? Would it be Highway 1A, Canadian Auto Route 1, or the Lougheed Highway? So I want you to find 7A. I want you to find 1A. And then,
Who's that? Do you have a dog?
okay, we're not going to talk. So did you find 7A, 1A on the Lougheed Highway? Who has found those things? Corbin says it's going to be 1A. I want you to draw, Corbin, along where 1A is. Corbin, go ahead and draw along 1A. Andrew, have you found 7A? You found 7A and 1A? Okay, so somebody drew along 1A here. Can you carry it down to Surrey? Right, so you've got Surrey here and then 1A that goes all the way up, right? So that's a pretty good route. Who can find 7A? Aiden found 7A. Go ahead and draw on there, Aiden. So 7A, part of the way, it runs along with 1. So what's the best route, do you guys think? From Surrey, right? And it goes down, 1A goes down to here. So what's the best route from Surrey up there? What do you guys think? One A is the best route. It goes most directly from Surrey up to West Vancouver. Okay, I'm going to let you do the rest of these at home. Yep, so B is the best answer for number 9. Good, you guys. I know some of those are tricky, but you do a good job with them. So let's take a look. Remember, we're in Europe now, and so we are talking about children from Europe. What are some of the things that you learned last week about Poland? Oh, let's see, Poland is this week. Let's see, you learned about Monica in Budapest, and you learned about Ari in Finland. What are some of the things that you learned about Ari in Finland? What do you remember? I'm so glad, Claire. What are some of the things that you learned about Ari in Finland? Good, he sells reindeer. Good. They heard elk with helicopters and snowmobiles. That was pretty interesting, right? What else did you learn about Ari? Anything else interesting that stood out to you? They eat reindeer, right? That's not something that we do. Right, those recorders that they play. But it's Monica who plays the flute. Okay, and the recorders are, so Monica plays the flute. The recorders are in Poland. It's going to be fun for you to learn about that. The boots that they have, yep. And why do they need boots in Finland? She is learning the flute. But you know, kind of we're always learning. Good. He's from the Sam people. Very nice. All right. And then what did you learn about Monica in Poland? Sorry, not Poland. I keep looking at where it says Poland. What did you learn about Monica in Hungary? She plays the flute. Good. What else about Monica in Hungary? See if you can give me three things. She is a bird. Good. Anything else? She likes chocolate. Good. This week, we're going to learn about Bonia. I don't know exactly how to say her name, but she lives in Poland on a farm that's about 50 miles from Warsaw, which is Poland's capital city. And you can see a picture of Warsaw right here. Lots of really cool information. She has on the farm cows and a bull, a goat, chickens, dogs. So it's a smaller farm than we sometimes think of. You can see a picture of the kind of churches that are very different than what we have in the United States. So churches in Poland. She really likes bread. Bread is very popular there. So there's bread there. And then these are recorders that they play. So you'll be learning about Bonia in Poland. And you're going to learn about Olya, who lives in Russia. And she lives by the capital city of Russia. And she is actually a ballet dancer. And you'll get a sense, even though she's very young, my daughter is a dancer as well. And she looked at some of those pictures of Olya today and she said, I cannot believe how stretchy is and what good form she has, even though she is so young. So this is a picture of the Kremlin. The Kremlin is a government center in Russia. It's the seat of the Russian government. And back when Russia was actually the USSR, it's inspired a lot of fear in a lot of people. They have some beautiful ancient artwork and churches. You do ballet too, Claire? Good. And then here are some famous pancakes that they eat called, let me be sure I get this right, blini. Here, so there's a picture of that. So beautiful, beautiful, and very different type of art than what we're accustomed to. And I found for you your book is wrinkled. Are all the pages wrinkled, Molly? We'll see what we can figure out about that. Thank you for letting me know. I found this clip from the Georgian National Ballet, and Georgia was one of the countries that used to be part of the USSR, and it is now its own individual state in the continent of Russia. And I'm going to show you this clip from the Georgian National Ballet. Just look at how much power there is in this. Let me turn off my, oh. All right, so what are some of the things that struck you about that? Ah, the girls are wearing heels. Yes, they're wearing character shoes. Mm-hmm. It reminds you a little bit of Riverdance. In what way does it remind you of Riverdance, Nicholas? Claire is right. The reason that they're not dizzy is because they're spotting, and they've gotten clearly very good at it. But it is amazing, isn't it, that they're able to spin that much and not get dizzy. Good. They have fast feet. What else did you notice? Good. It's very fast. I know they land on their knees a lot, right? Their knees are very tough. Good. You guys did a good job of watching. Their structure is impeccable. When you say their structure, what do you mean by that, Andrew? I like that word, impeccable. Good. Their form. Yes. They do have excellent form. It takes a lot of practice, doesn't it? And obviously this was just a rehearsal, but how exciting it would be to see them perform, and how fun to get a peek into their rehearsals. So remember, last week we started a child's geography. Good. I'm glad that you'll read what you can, Molly, but I'll see if there's something I need to do. So we talked about a child's geography. Now that it's interesting because the atmosphere of the Earth is kind of like an onion, in that an onion has several different layers, right? And so the atmosphere also has different layers. Atmos means vapor, and sphere means ball. So it's the vapor around the ball. It's made up of nitrogen and of oxygen and of other gases. And here are some of the layers. You have troposphere, and your book makes the point that tropos means turning. And so you do have in this lowest layer, you have kind of a lot of turning. You have mixing. It's the turning and the mixing of the air that's closest to our Earth. So as you move upward from the troposphere, to the stratosphere, then it gets colder. So the further up you get, it gets colder. For every mile that you walk up through the troposphere toward the stratosphere, the temperature falls by 18 degrees every mile. So at the coldest, it would be minus 63 degrees, which is colder than your freezer, your book points out. And the higher that you traveled, the less oxygen there is. So you couldn't actually keep walking all the way up through because there's not enough oxygen to support life. Once you've reached the 5-mile mark in the troposphere, you would have climbed as high as Mount Everest. So 5 miles up, which look, it shows here that the troposphere, I keep losing my marker, is 7.5 miles. So 5 miles is almost the whole way up through the troposphere. Yes, I can put that video on the page. So then we get to the stratosphere. Stratosphere means spreading out. So there's kind of a spreading out sense. And look, it is between 7.5 miles and 21.1 miles. So it extends up almost to 30 miles above our Earth, above our home. But the further you kept walking, it actually goes through a spot where it gets warmer up to 27 degrees. The stratosphere has a layer called the ozone, and that ozone layer is very important because it protects our Earth. It works as a protective layer, and it helps to insulate our Earth. So it catches the ultraviolet rays that come down from the sun to our Earth, and those ultraviolet rays can really harm us. One of the reasons that we have to be careful about some of the chemicals that we use is because they can do damage to the ozone layer, and we don't want to do damage to the ozone layer because it's so important for the insulation and the protection that it provides. God did such a good job of really creating our Earth in a way that supports life on it, and it's a delicate balance, and we need to do our part to really take care of our Earth. What else do I want you to know? So this ozone layer keeps out a lot of the damaging rays, but it also lets some through because we do need some, and we need the vitamin D that's brought to us by the sun. And so it allows that vitamin D to come through to us and to keep us healthy. Then when you go up to the mesosphere, this mesosphere is much, much colder. And this is before you get up toward outer space. And in the mesosphere, we have shooting stars. Falling stars usually burn up in the mesosphere. That's where sometimes we can see meteor showers. So those are some of the layers of the atmosphere. And this is the week now for you to do one of your projects. Remember, you can either do a postcard home or a project that you found in Chapter 1 or Chapter 2. So you're going to do a project from Chapter 1 or Chapter 2. So here's a little more about the troposphere. And we covered all these things. Vitamin D makes our bones healthy. It keeps temperatures warm. When the mesosphere gets really cold, shooting stars are up there. Okay, so projects. Here are some of the projects. You want to pull them from either Chapter 1 or Chapter 2. You can do either postcard home or one of the excursions at the end of each chapter. And you'll want to, unlike the quizzes that you've been taking, this you will turn in. You can take a picture or a video of it and turn it in to me. So I love to see your pictures and videos, however you choose to do it, and turn it in. Spring break, that's a lie. Spring break is not next week. Spring break is actually, I think it's in 2 weeks. It's at the end of February. Yeah, so don't get too excited about that. And keep an eye on your wiki project page and what you need to be adding to it each week. If you have any questions about your wiki projects, go ahead and email me, but you want to be sure to get started so that you don't have too much work all the way at the end. Do you guys have any questions? Oh, good, Claire. You guys have a great, great week. Thanks for coming to class.